All
Ain't
right,
no
big boy,
way.
didn't you read the sign?
Ain't no way. Look on the man in the sky.
Marcianiga said you like big guys, so we decided to switch.
Look on Penny. Look on her stance. No, Penny, I never seen Penny like this.
Anyways, after Penny is afraid to get on downfall with
Yo! No, 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 no. Nobody wanted the fat guy. A proud family lesson on fat phobia? Or is it just body shaming? Great question. Great question. Yo, listen, we have a problem with fat phobia. Listen, what I realize when I was younger, I had this in terms of I didn't like fat women. I found fat women unattractive. I would never really talk to a fat woman. And that was just immaturity. As I've grown, I've realized that fat, the fat people don't deserve to be ostracized or, prejudiced against or things like that. And I've opened up my mindset. I've dated fat women. I've talked to fat women, and I have no problems now with fat women. But I believe that there's a deeper conversation. Body shaming, fat phobia. Many people, if you're fat, nobody takes you seriously. Many people, if you're fat, they use that as a excuse to disrespect you. Oh, your opinion is not valid because you're fat. Oh, you're dumb because you're fat. And then the body shaming as well, making someone feel bad because of their body type. You get what I'm saying? But we need to grow out of this. Let me give it a like. Alissa Jadyn. We need to come or we need to mature from this. We need to mature. We need to grow. So without further ado, let's start.
Y'all were saying fat phobia doesn't exist. Explain this.
We've got a halfback, a wideout, ooh, a strong safety, and a team bus.
Oh my days. Did she just say a boss? Yo, 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 that's a violation. That right there is a violation. Did she say a boss?
Y'all were saying fat
Yo.
phobia doesn't exist. Explain this.
We've got a halfback, a wideout, ooh, a strong safety, and a team bus.
What's good, guys? It's Alissa. If you're new here, hello. First things first, y'all know I gotta get the formalities out of the way. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, all that information is in
Okay,
the description
okay,
box down
okay.
below. I also have a Blue
Cool,
Sky
cool.
account. I'll be on Threads sometimes. I'll be everywhere. I'm also in my little influencer era, so you can also subscribe to my second channel where I'm trying to post more lifestyle stuff.
Okay, good,
I
good,
want to
good.
thank you
Let's
100 so much
let's
for
get to
all the
the
love that you guys showed me in my last Proud Family video, like almost 100K views.
Yeah, that was a good video. We reacted to that video, talking about grooming, fame, red flags, exposing the dangers that's there. Yo, that was a good video for real. That was a really good
In
video.
2 weeks is literally crazy. I've never done numbers like that in my life. And I just felt like the conversation that we were having was so important and so needed and so heartwarming and so touching. And I was just so glad with the reception.
I say Alex, I love this character in the Proud Family. He was a gentle giant, a great character, definitely. And many people who are fat are like that, you know. But the thing is, people look at them because they're fat and disregard them. They shame them. They don't take them seriously. They act as though they're less of a person. Yo, people can be so, so bad sometimes.
reception from that video. So I thank you guys so much. Also, my very last upload wasn't even a new upload. The Me's retrospective, which is actually outdoing the Proud Family video right now with almost 100,000 views in a little over a week. Crazy numbers. I'm so glad to be doing bigger and better than ever since returning
Yeah,
to uploading.
that's them
Like,
naturally.
y'all was so
Yeah.
scared that you guys were not going to accept me back, but the reception has been so great and it just really keeps me motivated to keep going for real. So thank you guys so much. I have another retrospective coming soon. If you have me on Patreon, I'll keep you guys updated on there, but I'm excited for this one
Nice.
because
I'm
my rule
excited
of thumb
too.
is to
I'm
not really do
excited.
retrospectives on stuff that I'm in. Kids to these things called prefixes and suffixes, and that's when you put two of those things together and it creates a new word. Crazy, right? So just because you haven't heard of a word doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
That's true. That's exactly true. Just because you haven't heard of a word or you've never seen the word doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And you can have two words that come together to mean something different. Like when she say prefixes, hyphens. That's true.
But in this video, I want to talk about a Proud Family episode that actually touches on fat phobia. And it's when Penny goes on a date with the big boy out of the group in the season 1 episode titled Forbidden Date. The episode starts with Penny asking her dad if she can go on a date, which I thought was super random. Like, I don't have any character analysis or anything on that part. It was just like an interesting writing choice. Like, she just literally randomly comes up to her dad and asks if she can go on a date.
Hey, that's kids sometimes. Seriously, that's kids. Sometimes kids will come up to you and say the most random things out of nowhere. Seriously, I'm telling you. Kids will just come up to you and just ask the most random things, say the most random things. And it could be that she was just there at school seeing people going on dates and she just wanted to go on one to see what it's like. But the good thing is that she asked her dad. Many kids would just sneak around and just, you know what I mean?
I was like, okay. But of course, in true Oscar fashion, he tells Penny hell nah, and he sticks to his no boys rule. Penny insists that she's not a baby anymore and that she wants to go on a date.
You always treat me like a baby.
That's because you are my baby.
No, I'm not.
According to the blood test, you are.
In the episode Hip Hop Helicopter, which is the last Proud Family video I did, that was so crazy, literally involved.
Well, say, Alex, if you never experience it, doesn't mean it doesn't happen to others. That's true as well. You know, many people just go through life so oblivious, not realizing how privileged they are. So, for example, you will have someone who they never had to worry about the lights turning off, right? Never have to worry about paying a bill, if they will go home, if the utilities will be cut off, and then they just assume that nobody goes through that, that everybody just has their bills paid all the time without ever having to worry about, you know, their lights being cut off. And then now they go around being so insensitive. And when they hear somebody talk about the issues of having their lights cut off, they laugh at them and then pretend like, why are you going through that? Just pay your bill. And they just don't understand, you know?
Like grooming and boys being weird. But anyway, in this episode, Penny goes on the show called Hip Hop Helicopter and gets in trouble for wearing a revealing outfit. And her reason was because she's not a kid anymore and everybody else is wearing it, so she wants to wear it too.
Yeah, that's a very strong thing too. Like the peer pressure. Sometimes kids, they just want to prove that they're grown. They just want to grow up so fast, prove that they're not young, they don't need rules anymore, and they just do things to rebel for the sake of rebelling. And also the peer pressure when something is normalized, right? It makes it easier for the younger generation to just do it because it's normalized, like the over sexualization in this generation. Many young people think it's okay to dress revealing and do all these things because it's being normalized. You get what I'm saying?
And in that episode, we were having a conversation about how Penny believed that growing up just meant wearing more revealing clothes. But in this episode, for some reason, she believes that growing up just means you start going on dates. So I just think that Oscar and Trudy need to have a sit down with her about what growing up actually means, and that when you grow up, your heart dies. We had a great conversation in the last episode that I covered of the Proud Family about wanting to emulate what the older women in your family or that you're in proximity to are doing in kind of a way to emulate femininity.
Yeah, that's true. Like the older people around you when you're a kid, they tend to be a good emulation of what you want to do. Kids will always have the desire to get older, to grow older, to be seen as older. And I think I talked about it in her previous video when we react to it. The illusion of freedom, right? The illusion of getting older means you're free. You don't have to follow the rules your parents set over you. But they, being young, they don't have the maturity to realize that the same rules that their parents set onto them is the same rules and principles they have to live by when they get older, right? So growing up is not about being a rebel and doing whatever you want, but it's just about being more mature, having more autonomy over your life. Instead of somebody like a parent guiding you, telling you what to do, providing for you, you know, guide yourself and take care of yourself, right? And then be in a position to lead someone else. So that's why I think, as she say, Oscar Proud need to just sit her down and explain what it means to be an adult. And this is why those around the young people, they need good role models. Because if you have a young girl and her mother is an exotic dancer, and every day she sees her mother go out to the club in revealing clothes, that will be her preference to what growing up or an adult is. So don't be surprised whenever she believes that growing up means wearing revealing clothing, means going to the club, means to dance on a pole. You get what I'm saying? So yo, this is a very good conversation.
For me, I literally remember growing up, that was like being a kid and being at the little kids table or being with the little kids and you wanted to be with the big kids. In my case, I have like a whole generation of just girls. My generation in my family is like all girls. So I wanted to hang out with like my big cousins, my big sisters. Like that was just so cool to me. And you just wanted to do everything to get into that circle and do what they were doing. So like when you reached a certain age, they allowed you to start hanging out with them. You know, they will allow you to just get ready with them, go out with them. Your parents would be like, okay, well, yeah, y'all can go hang out with them. And like the little kids would be like, what? That's not fair. Like it was just kind of cool to be a little bit older and do a little bit older things.
Yeah, that's true. And you know another thing in human nature, people most of the time like what they can't have, or there's an allure to what you can't have. Because you know you can't have it, you don't have it, so you want it, you want to experience it. It's not getting it, it's the idea or the fantasy of getting it, not actually having it. That's what I realize.
But as a kid, you don't realize that that's like literally surface level desires on what it means to grow up. And the funniest thing is, I was actually using the word we a lot in that last video, but that was just honestly me standing in solidarity with the girls that I knew were doing these things that I remember growing up. That doesn't mean I was doing them too. See how y'all took that and ran? Because my personal experience is that, and I think I talked about this in the Daria video, I didn't date my first guy until I was 20 years old. And I also
Whoa.
didn't start really expressing my femininity. So like wearing more revealing clothes, that doesn't necessarily mean feminine, but just being more comfortable in my body until then. There's kind of a
Interesting.
direct correlation there. One came before the other. So I started being more, wanting to be more beautiful and wearing makeup and doing.
Yeah, I can relate. Hey, that's a really good thing. She waited until she was 20, older, and not many people can have that luxury, even me. I think I already told my testimony. I kind of got forced into that to do all of that too quick and in the wrong way because of the perception I had or how people treated me because of how I looked. And I just wanted to be out of that so bad. I wanted to gain respect, to be cool. I wanted to, get women, do all of these things. Not because of the women, but just because of the status it would give. I was tired of being in the bottom of the barrel, being disrespected everywhere I go, bro. But then again, it turned out not being worth it. I should have just stayed, and just enjoyed my childhood, to be honest.
my hair, and then the boys started to flock, right? Yeah. But I also said in that video that people just seem to have ignored that I grew up more masculine than I did feminine. For me, that was because I grew up recognizing that femininity was villainized. So if you express any form of femininity, liking boys, very, heteronormative views, liking boys, wanting to do your makeup, wanting to do your hair, wanting to wear feminine presenting clothing as a woman or, as a little girl, or even just a teenager, that you were immediately put in this category of grown up, especially as a Black girl. And I have mostly sisters. So just growing up, I noticed that they were being treated differently for being more feminine. And so I didn't want to be treated that way. And so I would kind of conserve myself. So I would wear baggy clothes. I was more tomboyish. And that wasn't because I wanted to be. That was literally in rebellion to not be treated like how my siblings were being treated for being feminine.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Yeah, that's a valid point. Seeing how they're being treated, probably they get treated more softer. Probably they get more attention or the type of attention she didn't like it. So she dressed that way to rebel against it so that she wouldn't be seen as soft. Maybe I'm not sure exactly. Probably not to be seen as soft, not to be seen as delicate, not to be pampered and not to get certain attention from boys or so, which is understandable.
Because you were automatically placed in this category of you're being fast, you're up to no good, I know what you up to, even though you're not, and I peeped that. But when I was 18 or, just was able to be on my own, making my own decisions, living my own life, then I became more comfortable to express that femininity once I kind of separated from my home life. The reason why I wanted to explain that a little bit further, because I didn't in the previous video, because I was just trying to make a point, was because I seen a comment that was like, no, you talking about we? No, that was just you wanting to be fast and grow. I'm just the worst thing I was doing was drinking. Do not be doing that. I'm not an average.
Drinking? You were drinking? You were drinking below 21? Bad, bad, bad. Drinking?
For that. When you look at things in hindsight as a grown-up, it's hell no, I would not accept that kind of behavior from a child or a teen. No. But the point I was making was I don't have to be the direct example as in my personal experience. I remember those things growing up. Here I am on a tangent again. I remember those things growing up. I remember girls wanting the sew-ins because that was hot, that was popular. I remember the girls wearing the shorts or the short skirts under their clothes, going to school and get dress coded because their parents didn't allow them to wear certain things. It's I remember this stuff. I'm not saying it was horrible and terrible, but and all those things were just different ways that young girls were trying to emulate what they thought was growing up.
Yeah, that's true. I saw that in high school as well. Wearing certain type of they didn't allow sneakers. Many Jamaican schools don't allow sneakers or certain type of sneakers, but the girls would wear a certain type of sneakers, sneak them in, put them in the bag, and when they're at school, change their shoes. They would they would get their skirts tailored, tailored shorter. So you would have the skirts, they should be in the middle of your shin or a little below your shin. But then they would sneak in skirts that are cut to be at knee level or shorter, and they would alter the uniforms to be tighter. They would try to cream the hair, get certain things in the hair and all of that. So I've seen that. Yeah, Alex, you can relate. You see it all the time. Yeah, yeah.
But it wasn't actually what being a grown-up was about, as we will learn now having to pay bills and have responsibilities, right? Anyway, Penny tries to get a cosign from her mom saying that she's not a baby anymore, but even Trudy had to agree, girl is giving baby right now.
Mommy, tell Daddy I'm not a baby anymore.
I don't know, Penny. You aren't very convincing doing all that whining and crying.
After Penny
Yo, yo, why she have to do her like that? She's so whining and crying. Yo, She never have to do her like that though.
He runs off in frustration in true teen fashion. Trudy suggests that Oscar go talk to her and at least explain why he has these rules set in place for her. But Oscar was like, nope, he doesn't have to explain himself to a child. Why is my AirPod in? I was watching a freaking As Told by Kenya Patreon video before I started recording. But when Oscar said that, I was like, aha, that's what it's been all along.
Yeah, I think that's where Oscar went wrong. Like, I don't know if it's pride or whatever it is, but one thing I realize with kids, whenever you give them a rule, but you don't explain why, or you don't give them a reason, or you don't explain it to them in a way that they can understand, they're more prone to rebel because they're just like, you're just telling me this because you want to hold me back. You know, you don't have a reason for telling me this, so why should I listen? You know? But he, as the father, he should just go and explain to her what boys are capable of, what boys want, what boys are looking for. Those boys, they're going through puberty and only one thing on their mind when they're going through puberty, hormones raging, and they just want to get a dip in the pool. Let's just say it like that.
Oscar himself is just not mature enough to have the conversation with Penny, so he uses this excuse that he doesn't have to explain himself to a child because he's an adult and she's a child. But as he so clearly pointed out, he is her child. But she's also Trudy's child. So
And you know another thing? Another thing could be that Oscar just doesn't know how to speak to her about it, or he feels uncomfortable if he should go into that detail. You know what I mean? Some parents have that where they just don't know, they feel uncomfortable talking about certain things with their child. But then again, that will be your own undoing. Alex, parents don't feel like they're entitled to explain themselves. It's pride. As kids, we don't understand it the same way they do as adults. That's true. A lot of time it's pride as well. Pride that you should just do what I say without question, without any back talk. Just do what I say. I'm the one in charge. You're the child. Sometimes that's not always the best approach. There's a time and place for that at times, but majority of the time that just doesn't work.
maybe that's where Penny's intellect comes from. Ooh. But also, as his child, I feel like he should give her a little bit more credit. Penny actually is able to have these mature conversations at her age. Because if you really think about it, what is he really trying to say? Like, the kid that he birthed is not smart? That's crazy. That sounds crazy. Even at Penny's age, which I believe at this point in the show she was like 13, 14 years.
And you know another thing I think it might be with Oscar? It can be that I hear this a lot of times where fathers or mothers, they don't want their child to grow up. They want their child to stay in that baby stage where the baby looks pretty and they're crying, but they don't really want to get into those deep things where the child is actually growing up. They don't have that same autonomy. The child is getting their mind of their own. They want to do their own thing. So they're not just a baby that says yes, daddy, yes, mommy all the time. You know what I'm saying? So it could be a case where Oscar feels like if he goes and talk to her about that, then she will truly grow up. She will truly not be his little baby girl anymore. She'll have a mind of her own. She'll have her own opinions, and probably he's not ready for that. Alex, Oscar could have been uncomfortable because Penny is growing up. Exactly. Yeah, like he just wants her to stay in that baby stage. He doesn't know how to deal with her getting her own thoughts, her own opinions, and to disagree because when children growing up, they will start disagreeing with you. They will start challenging you. If you tell them something, they will challenge it. If you give them your opinion, they will challenge it because they're trying to form their own, mindset. And I don't think Oscar might be ready for that.
Old. Later in the season, they said she was 14. I can guarantee she can understand and comprehend the conversation that Trudy wants him to have with her. And the conversation isn't even a deep one. Like, just explain to her why you have this rule in place.
Yeah, Alex, parents want us to always need them, which we will to some degree. That's true. Feeling needed, and some parents they feel like if you don't need them anymore, you don't love them, or they feel worthless, you know. if you don't need them anymore. I think some parents struggle with that too.
Why? Kids naturally just want to know why. They're learning, this world is new, and you learn as you go. It's literally one of the first words that kids learn, and they literally can't stop saying it over and over and over. And Oscar's reasoning for this parenting style is because he's just raising her how he was raised. And I mean, we see where that got him.
Interesting.
Later in the episode, Penny tries.
Mama now play. You hear the crack? Wait, you hear the crack?
We see where that got him. Later in the episode, Penny tries
Yo.
to zoom past her parents to hurry up and leave to go to the amusement park.
I'm going to the Wild Wild World amusement park with my friends.
This part was just funny to me because you could tell that it was a tongue twister for Kyler Pratt to say, so she had to say it slow. Wild Wild World amusement park. Wild Wild World amusement park. Wild Wild World amusement park. Anyway. True.
Yo, I will even try. I will not even try. I will not even try.
Trudy and Oscar are headed out to a double date with Sunset and Carlos, which
Yeah,
is
it was
her
a
friend
good
Los
point.
Angeles' parents. So Trudy tells Penny that she gotta watch the twins, which are her siblings, BB and Cece. Trudy had forgot about Penny's plans, so she has to take the twins to the amusement park with her. But this part confused me because Sunset, which is La Cienaga's mom, is taking Penny and her friends to the amusement park. But Sunset is also going with Trudy on a double date with Carlos and Oscar. So how the heck did she
Interesting.
forget if they're all riding together? I don't know. I think that they just said that so that Penny would have a reason to bring the twins to the amusement park to bring the plot along for what happens later in the episode. But
Yeah. Sugar mama, old school, don't ask no question, be seen and not heard type of parents, yeah. And you know, this is how generational curses are formed because a bad parenting style can just get recycled over and over and over. And you know, the coping mechanism is that people will look and say, yeah, my parents grew me this way, but look how I turned out. I'm okay. I have a wife, I have a kid, you know, I have a job, I have good finances. I'm okay. But they're not seeing the underlying issues like communication issues, relationship issues, bonding issues, and all of that. So if they look at the material things, yes, I got the quote unquote achievements in life, house, car, wife, kid, money, stable finance. But then again, there's still all this trauma. And then I carry this way that I was grown, and then I imprint it on my child as well. And then they don't want to change, they don't want to, because they're looking and saying, my life is okay, so it must be a good thing. Yeah, Alex, deep down they have unhealed trauma and habits, exactly.
I'll get to that. Before they leave, Oscar makes it a point to still put his foot down. No boys allowed at the amusement park.
We'll be back at 10.
Remember, no boys.
But of course, La Cienega, being the boy crazy one, literally brings binoculars to the amusement park to literally find them, scope them out.
Yo, she on timing, brother, she on timing. That sound play every minute, the prowler. La Cienega was prowling, bro. Prowling.
And it begins. The whole reason why I'm making this video in the first place. La Cienega scopes out the football team, but makes it a point to point out the fat one.
Oh, you don't need binoculars to see this one. Check out Gordito.
Ain't no way.
I thought he was one of the rats.
This episode wanted to have a conversation about fat phobia.
Yo.
What is fat phobia?
She says she thought he was one of the rides. What? No, we have to fight. We have to fight. Those are fighting words. You gonna tell me that you thought I was one of the rides? No, we have to catch the fade. We have to get. There's no other way.
Fat phobia, also known as anti-fatness, is the implicit and explicit bias of overweight individuals that is rooted in a sense of blame and presumed moral failing. Being overweight and/or fat is highly stigmatized in Western culture. Anti-fatness is intrinsically linked to anti-blackness, racism, classism, misogyny, and many other systems of oppression. Anti-fatness contributes to individuals not receiving adequate health care for a number of reasons. 1. The assumption is if someone is overweight, they cannot be healthy. 2. Clinical care teams typically lack experience in treating diverse body sizes. And 3. Weight-related structural barriers, for example, size of exam tables, gowns, blood pressure cuffs, and scale limits.
Interesting. Interesting. This is a lot of things here. Because the first part, when it's rooted in a sense of blame and presumed moral failing, people, because of the beauty standards in the Western culture, which Jamaica is a part of the West, Jamaica tend to take on a lot of things from the West. So, because of that beauty standard, many people have it that when somebody is fat, they fail. Like they committed a sin. They failed morally. That they did a bad thing because the beauty standard is slim, petite for the most part. You know what I mean? So it's like people tend to feel like they're better than somebody who is fat because they're saying, hey, at least I'm not fat. Hey, I'm slim, I meet the beauty standards, I'm pretty, but you're not, so I'm better than you. You understand? And then I don't know how race came into fat phobia, anti-blackness, racism. I don't know, probably because I'm Jamaican, we don't really focus on race that much here in Jamaica, so I don't know how race come into fat phobia. But a funny thing is that in the past, right? In the past, being fat was actually the beauty standard because back in those days, people being poor was the norm. Like a majority of the people would be poor, can't afford food, so they would always be skinny. But then again, it was only the rich and the nobles and those of high esteem who would be able to afford food like fatty food. You understand? Only they could afford it. So, because they were the only ones who could afford it, they would always be eating the fatty food. And their fat, being fat and big and fat, that would be a show of royalty. That would be a show of wealth. That would be a show of beauty. You understand? Yeah, Alex, kings were fat, and that was a sign of luxury. Exactly. And it's just funny how it's turned around these days that fat is now seen as something, bad, terrible. And the second part where it says that the assumption that if someone is overweight, they cannot be healthy. Yes, we know a lot of people, right? We know a lot of people that we know generally that being fat is not healthy. But there's a thing called body mass index or your body fat percentage. Many people have a different level of body fat. For example, one person might have their normal body fat might be 15%. And then you have somebody else who their normal body fat is 40%. So no matter how they try, they just can't get below 40% body fat. And if they do, they become extremely unhealthy. To the regular person, they would look at that person with 40% body fat and saying they're unhealthy. But in reality, that's their normal body weight. That's what best for them. And you have different body types. You have people who are naturally muscular, people who are naturally skinny, and people who are naturally fat, believe it or not. Many people who are fat, that is just their normal body fat percentage, and they're perfectly healthy. That's a thing that I think people just don't know.
And I didn't really talk too much about La Cienega in the last video, but La Cienega has such a nasty spirit. Like, she is literally the definition of misery loves company. She hadn't even met this
Exactly.
boy, and when she was talking about all of them in a row, she called this boy the team bus. Like, that is so nasty. And she even calls Zoe goofy for pointing out that their parents embarrassed them before they left. Like, is that so horrible to say parents embarrass you all the time? That makes her goofy? No. Anyway, after La Cienega points out the football team, they immediately get to fighting over who's not gonna get the fat one. So La Cienega comes up with a rule that the first one to talk to them is the boy that they get. And guess who comes up to La Cienega?
Remember me? Carlos, from the 5th grade.
After some pushback on La Cienega's rule at first, they're okay with this outcome and immediately go talk to the other boys. And this scene just
Okay.
had me like, come on now, Penny. Why the hell did she just leave BB and Cece alone like that to go talk to those boys?
Yeah, brother. Why you do that? Seriously, you need a slap for that. Why you run well leave your little sister and brother just for go to boys? Seriously? Ain't no way.
And with La Cienega at that. That's like walking the twins into the witch's house from Hansel and Gretel. La Cienega does this switcheroo, distracting Penny with the fact that she left the twins alone and takes the date that Penny had, whose name was Nick, leaving Penny with Carlos.
La Cienega said you like big guys, so we decided to switch.
And yeah, you know, even the clown music that's playing. Look on Penny, look on her stance. No, Penny, I never seen Penny like this. I never seen Penny stance like that before. Is it that bad? Yo, Penny.
Oh, I can't stand her!
And I thought this was really messed up. Not the fact that Penny got Carlos as a date, but the fact that La Cienega used this, you know, I heard you like big guys, as a way to do the switcheroo for Penny to get Carlos. Like, I literally hate bullying, especially when the person is so sweet that they don't understand that they're being the butt of the joke. Maybe they do, but that just makes me cringe so bad. And
Even with that, a lot of fat people, which I've seen, they just get used to it. Most of the time, they know that they're the butt of the joke. And the thing is, fat people, they tend to have to build a stronger personality just so that they can get over the bullying and the, you know, what's the word? The demeaning and all of that. You know what I mean? People acting like they're better than them, saying slick comments, so they tend to build a very strong character, either being very funny or being very stoic or just being the life at a party, having a lot of charisma, just so that they can get over the things that people do, the shady things that people do, you know? So most of the time it might seem like they're oblivious, but they're really not. It's just that it happens so many times that they just over it at that point. They just know how to ignore it and deal with it and move on, not let it affect them. Which that just the fact that they have to do that is so messed up. You know what I'm saying?
just makes me like, it makes my heart hurt. I actually feel like this episode didn't handle the topic of fat phobia and fat shaming all that well. It's like they were trying to have a bigger conversation, but we're still being a part of the problem. And it wasn't just the La Cienega of it all. As Penny is spending more time with Carlos, she just allows her fat phobia to get the best of her. The preconceived notion that they're not going to be able to have fun or participate in anything at the amusement park because he's just so big. She's jumping off the deep end, thinking about how badly things are going to go if they get on these rides together. But this is after the writers poke fun at Carlos's weight for denying him a chance to get on the ride.
All
Ain't
right,
no
big boy,
way.
didn't you read the sign?
Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Why them do that to my boy? Why them have to make the man fly so far, brother? Why they do that? Look on the man in the sky. How tall is that? The man is floating over the whole roller coaster. The entire roller coaster. The man is like Team Rocket blasting off again. No, uno wrong for this. Uno wrong for this. Seriously. You're so wrong for this. Look at how the man posed up in the sky.
They are literally playing like elephant sounds, fart noises, and even putting emphasis on the fact that he just keeps eating. Carlos is also voiced by Kel Mitchell of Keaton and Kel, who is just putting on his best Biggie Smalls impression this whole time. Penny even tries to get Carlos to stand up for himself against La Cienega, but he says that he's taught to not get mad and to get even. But after he was denied entry on the ride that they were all getting on, La Cienega says that the only place that he can fit is the food court, which isn't even a good joke. And his solution to that was to go to the food court. Again, a writing issue. But, I also think that people's solution to combat discrimination is to portray people in the opposite of their stereotype, but actually don't realize that that's doing people more harm than good. So sure, Carlos' solution after all of this was to go to the food court, but like, he's a hungry guy that also happens to be fat. I made this
Yeah, that's true. That's it's like the dichotomy because, you know, just because somebody is fat and you see them eating food, they will shame them because they love to eat, but they won't blink twice at a skinny person who eats like there's no tomorrow. They won't bat an eye at a skinny person who overeats. So what? Because the person is skinny and they're overeating, and most of the time skinny people eat way more than fat people. Most of the time fat people just have slow metabolism. Like when they eat, they just gain a lot of weight. But skinny people, oh, you won't bat an eye when they're eating away, don't. But because a person is fat, then you have a problem with them eating and shame them for it. I tell you, the double standard is real, you know.
Point in a really old Daria video. In fact, I think it was my very first Daria video that our insecurities aren't even sometimes at the hands of ourselves. Sometimes insecurities can be planted in you like Inception. People just literally don't know how to keep comments to themselves and are sometimes bold enough to nitpick you to your face. Growing up, me personally, I don't remember being self-conscious, but being perceived was like the worst thing that could ever happen to me. I say this as I'm putting videos up on YouTube. But a common story for Black girls, especially dark-skinned ones like me, was your skin tone being nitpicked when you come back to school after summer vacation. And I can only imagine the hell that the kids are going through these days with this horrible freaking big back trend. Like, kids are so cruel. It's like, I feel like they would eat me alive and I wouldn't make it. And you know, sometimes the hate is calling from inside the house. A lot of our insecurities can be traced back to our parents being not so nice people. In that video, I remember a lot of comments with people talking about how their moms would always comment about their weight.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly true. A lot of people they're just so nitpicky, and I see it when I used to go to high school talk. The dark skinned people, yo, sometime black people, sometime we can be so hateful against our own self and be prejudiced against our own self. Most of the time, people with darker skin or darker skin tone, you will see people making fun of them, shaming them, saying things about comparing their skin tone to coal, comparing their skin tone to dark color things, and it's just, understand? Hey, what on Demetrius? Hey, I'm just here, you know. I'm here streaming. It's been a great stream so far. Hey, it's been 7 hours streaming so far, and I'm planning to go more. We've been doing a lot of reactions. We're reacting now on fat phobia and the Proud family. So it's a really good conversation. How are you doing, Demetrius, by the way? You drink water? Did you drink water? Are you having a good day? I hope you are. You know, and to continue on what she says as well, many times it's coming from the parenting style too. And this is generational curses again. Like they grew up with parents who were very nitpicky. Everything that they did, they had a problem with it. They nitpick, always commenting on their weight, how they look, how they dress, making them super self-conscious. So they just turn that over to the people around them. And many at the time, they do not even see it as something bad because that's what they always grew up with, you know what I mean? They don't see it as something bad.
How they can look different, comparing them to their other siblings, and that can be very detrimental to your self-esteem, especially growing up. But honestly, at the root of this conversation, which is why I didn't go too much back and forth with people that had something to say about fat phobia not existing, is that people don't want to give up being mean. People call our generation sensitive for just wanting better for people that are directly affected by this harm. But imagine back in the day, people were saying you're being too sensitive when our people had to sit in the back of the bus. Is it a crime for wanting to dream of a better tomorrow? People can so easily turn a blind eye to other people's problems, especially if it doesn't directly affect them. But it actually takes courage to do the opposite. Simply put, I know y'all remember this saying growing up, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it.
That's true. Hey, sometimes I fall victim to this because you know what I notice? Brutally honest people, they tend to love the brutality part. Brutally honest people, they tend to stick very closely to the brutally part, you know? You don't have to always be brutal when you tell the truth. You don't have to always be very brutal when you tell the truth, bro, sometimes. And I had to learn this the hard way. I I'm a very outspoken person. I'm a very, just outspoken. I tend to say what's on my mind. Like if something comes to my mind, I tend to just say it. And most of the time, social cues sometimes goes over my head. So I had to learn this the hard way. Just because I had something to say doesn't mean I have to say it. Just say it that bold, or just say it that blatant. Sometimes you can put a filter over it. Sometimes you can word it correctly. Sometimes you can soften it a bit. You don't have to always be brutally honest, bruh. And honesty doesn't have to be brutal all the time. There's a time and place for it, yes, but you don't have to focus on the brutality part of honesty all the time. You get what I'm saying?
Anyways, after Penny is afraid to get on downfall with
Yo! No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Why they do that to my boy? Yo, you're wrong for that. You're so wrong for that.
Say, don't say it.
Anyways, after Penny
Ain't no way you just so you make the thing, you make the cable break and break through the ground like him just do a Hulk smash or something. Yo, you're so wrong for that. You're so wrong for that, bro. You're so wrong for that. You're too wrong for that, bro. Why you do that? Seriously. No, the producers, you need a slap for that. You need another slap for that too. Why you do that to the man? Yo, I had to do it, Demetrius. I had to. I had to. I have to learn from the best.
is afraid to get on downfall with Carlos, which is like supreme scream for my fellow Californians, they decide to get on the merry-go-round.
This was Penny's
Yo, that.
Scream for my fellow Californians, they decide.
Yo, why they violating bro like this? Why they violating bro like this?
Fucking way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Look what they doing to my bro. Why is it that the facial expression of the horses change like that? Are the horses sentient? Why the horse have a surprise look on him face? Yo, they're doing too much. They're doing too much. They're doing too much. Why the horse facial expression is like that? No, they're doing too much.
To get on the merry-go-round.
This was Penny's breaking point. So she decides it's time to go check on BB and Cece, which, yeah, where are BB and Cece? Penny calls Carlos tired and is really about to do him in when they hear screaming. The
Demetrius, when you get a chance, check the memes in Discord. They took some screenshots. Okay. Alright, I'll check it.
screams are people in terror because BB and Cece have somehow gotten out of the daycare and snuck onto a ride. The craziest ride at the park at that. Carlos springs into action to save the twins, and I was just confused at the Proud Family physics of it all. I think I need a crash course on how Carlos was one, denied a ride for being too big at first, but then in the name of saving BB and Cece, he rode this whole damn ride with no seatbelt. Also, earlier, the seat kept getting bigger and bigger, and this episode actually is very weird, but I'm not gonna touch on that. The talking is like really slow, and it is one of the earlier episodes of the Proud Family. And there's also this super weird side plot of like Oscar and Carlos hating their wives. But I just think that that's that like old sitcom-y, I hate my wife humor.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That old sitcom humor. Playing on the saying that says happy life, happy wife. For some reason, they had a hatred for that saying. So it's just the old school comedy. I don't think it's really, anything serious.
that a lot of old shows have for some reason, but that's not the conversation that we're having here today. I mean, if we want to talk about it, we can talk about it in the comments. But I thought it was so weird that after dissing Carlos all night, Penny immediately went to Carlos and expects him to save the day. Then he actually saved the day, and now he's Penny's hero. This was such beat it chick core. But one thing I can say that I admired about Carlos's character was that he wasn't that bullied bully. So often, people who were bullied or picked on decide to turn into the bully and torment people they view as lesser in the same ways that they were. And
That is so true. Listen, I have to be real. I fell into that. I became a villain at one point, bro. It was so bad that I literally hated anyone that remind me of my past. Like anybody who looked like how this was when I changed my image and all of that. At that point in my life, when I changed my image and you know, while I was changing my image, anybody that looked like how I looked previously, who reminded me of how I looked before, or reminded me of the bullying I used to get, I used to hate them. And I used to treat them so badly, I would bully them the same way I would get bullied. Until I realized that it was a form of self-hatred. Like, I never accepted myself, or I never liked myself because I didn't view myself as somebody who people liked. So whenever I saw somebody who reminded me of my old self, I would then project that hatred of myself onto them. And then I would bully them the same way or I would get bullied. It's a vicious cycle, bruh. And these are the things that low self-esteem causes. Low self-esteem, low confidence, poor self-image, not loving yourself enough. These are what it causes, and this is exactly right. Many people fall into the trap of becoming the bully.
even worse, doing this to their own kind, which is the ultimate sin because what does that say about how you see yourself? One thing I noticed as somebody who hates bullying is that this is so often done with kids and animals. Like people will get animals just to pick on them in ways that they know that they can't fight back. Parents do this with their kids. It's really weird. And honestly,
Yeah, and it's most of the time that when they do that, just as I said before, maybe that child or that animal reminds them of their selves when they were the victim, and because they hated that part of themselves that was the victim, they project that hatred onto something else that carries that same image. Like a child. Maybe when they were a child, they got bullied and they couldn't defend themselves. So when they see a child now, they project that thought of themselves onto that child, and the hatred that they had for themselves, they project it on that child or on that animal. You get what I'm saying? This went deep. That was deep.
truly, I could say my biggest problem is how fast I can put on a Superman cape. Just stand up for somebody in the bullied part of this situation. Like if I just hear something that's like do 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 do, and I'm like springing into action, I don't even realize how fast I'm springing into action. And in hindsight, I'm like, you could have really put yourself in some crazy situations, but in the moment, it feels good to be that person, and it feels good after the fact. But I'm like, bruh, why did you spring into action that fast? You could have really put yourself in harm's way. And this literally sounds so back. Like, what are your greatest weaknesses? I would say that my greatest weakness is how fast I stand up for bullying. I'm just so caring and courageous that it gets me into trouble sometimes. And I really hope it's
Interesting.
not coming off like that, but like that's as I'm saying it, that's how it's sounding right now. But anyway, you don't have to be exceptional to be accepted. Carlos didn't have to prove himself to be seen by the pretty girl that he liked.
And you know that's true. A lot of times within human nature, sometimes, most of the times, we focus a lot on the negative rather than the positive. You can have 100 good things going for you, but then one negative thing happens and it ruins your entire day. All of those 99 goods or 100 good doesn't count for nothing because that one negative takes up everything. I say that to say most of the time when people think about being enough, they focus on the few people that are bullying them, but They might have 3 people bullying them, but they don't realize that they have 10 friends. You have 10 friends who love you and cherish you and want to be around you. But the 3 people who hate you, that cause you to break down. So sometimes, not just focusing on the negative, but focusing more on the positive because the positive always outweigh the good, no matter what. The positive always outweighs the good.
He was already sweet and brave when they were picking on him. They just didn't give him a chance because of their own biases. And I guess the other girls learned their lessons though, because while Penny was over there winning prizes with her boo thing, the other girls were standing around soaked, waiting on towels from their dates, talking to other.
That's what you get. That's what you get. That's exactly what you get. The other guys who looked good and everything, they didn't have the personality that the big guy had. So Penny won in the end. Penny won. Actually, Penny won from the beginning, but she didn't see that. Right?
The girls. And remember that thing I said about bullies and projection? Yeah, La Cienega, literally standing there drenched, decided to still take shots at Carlos. Misery literally loves company.
He even won this teddy bear for me. A pie eating contest? You know what La Cienega, if you say one more thing.
That's okay.
Yeah, get her, get her, get her. She need a slap for that. Double for the trouble. You're lucky that Carlos was there for stop her. But that's exactly the projection because she's there drenched with no date, with nobody, right? And now she hating on Carlos.
Penny, I'm bigger than that.
That you are.
Sunset keeps her
Ain't no
promise and
way.
picks the girls up at 10, but Penny didn't keep her promise to her dad to not talk to any boys. So as soon as she gets home, of course, Oscar questioned her on who that boy was that she was talking to. Penny denies that she knew who he was when she got there, which is true, but uh-oh.
Hey, Carlos. What are you doing here?
You left your stuffed animal at the park.
Carlos comes to the door not once, but twice. And I will say, as someone who doesn't discriminate when it comes to dating, sometimes when you give that person a chance that doesn't really ever get a chance, they start acting like they don't have no goddamn sense. And in this case, Penny got a bugaboo on her hands. Like, Carlos is still sweet and nice, but you gotta dial it back, player. And how the hell did you get this girl's address?
Him determined. Carlos determined, bruh. Carlos determined. There's nothing else to say. Carlos is determined. He knows what he wants and he's going after what he wants. It's just as simple as that. But seriously, how you get the address? How you get the address, big bro? How you get the address? Yo, Carlos not playing.
This obviously gets Penny in a lot of trouble because why the hell
Whoa, Demetrius. Whoa, this is a crazy freeze
would
frame.
Carlos
Demetrius, the woman that's talking, can she give me a chance? What do you mean by that? She's your type, Demetrius? You like her, Demetrius? That's your type, huh? Or you want to try shoot your shot? Hey, you can head over to her page. Her page is Alissa Jadyn. And you can shoot a comment. Hey, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So you can shoot a comment where you say she's your type. Okay. Okay, Demetrius. Okay. Not bad, not bad, not bad, not bad.
called their time together a date in front of her dad. Penny is frustrated because her parents tell her to grow up, but when she tries to do things on her own, there's a million stipulations.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Growing up, bruh. Growing up. Your parents will say to you that you need to grow up, you need to be more mature, but whenever you try to do things that's grown up or try to show that you're growing up, they still treat you like a child and they have rules, regulation, and everything. Is it that you want me to grow up or do you want me to still be a child? One moment you're saying you wish I was more mature, then another minute you want me to stay a child. Make up your mind. Seriously.
So she storms off to her room, and Oscar puts it on Trudy to go have a talk with her. But Trudy was like, this is between y'all. Oscar sticks to the fact that he doesn't have to explain why Penny can't date because he doesn't have to explain these things to a kid. But when he finally makes his way to Penny, he still can't formulate why she can't. It's like, I can tell you a reason why Penny can't date right now, but why can't Oscar explain his own damn rule? Penny verbally tells him that she doesn't understand this rule, and this was Oscar's response.
That's it, baby, right there. You don't understand. You're just like your mother when she was young. You see her pretty face, and the next thing you know, you're married. Not that it didn't turn out good for your mother. She was one of the lucky ones.
Like, bro, what are
Ain't
you
no
talking
way.
about?
Ain't no
And
way.
as I suspected, Oscar was just afraid that his own daughter was going to talk circles around him when they had this conversation. Because Penny actually does understand, but if Oscar's reason is just going to be just because, Penny is going to act oblivious because the point is not explicitly stated. And in the end, Penny becomes more accepting and says that when it comes to dating, it's about character more than it is looks. And I found it weird that she kind of compared him to her dad. It's even that one Beyonce song that we shall not speak of. And I mean, it's okay, girl, you can shoot for both. You can shoot for looks and character. And of course, based on your own attraction, not society's ideas of it.
He's a good person, and that's what's important. Not how cute a guy is, how much ice he's wearing, what kind of car he drives. I'm sorry, Daddy. I interrupted you.
Everything you just said, but I guess you figured it out for yourself.
I think sometimes the Proud Family
Interesting.
tries to have these serious conversations, and in this case, you know, fat phobia and fat shaming. But the show kind of gets caught up in its own hyperbolic nature that it turns from a serious conversation into a mockery. But, you know, that also could just be because the writers have their own biases that they need to work through.
Well, then again, you have to think about the studio that they're working for because the studio has restrictions. Then again, you have to think about the fact that they have to follow certain guidelines, and it's a kid show at the end of the day, so they have certain things that they just have to do. They can't really go too serious or too deep. And then again, you might not know who is the producers. Probably the producers want to do one thing, and then you have another producer who want to inject their own thing. So probably that's sometimes why you see a double, like 1 minute it's serious, another minute it's goofy. So I guess it's just that type of thing in the industry.
One thing I liked about this episode was that they actually focused on the guy that was being the butt of the joke when it comes to the conversation about fat phobia, because, you know, in movies like Shallow Hal or just every other thing, it usually focuses on women, which women are nitpicked, and literally just did a video on My Wife and Kids about how they were being super fat phobic and fat shaming the main character Jay after she just had a baby. Yeah, because guys actually do have body image issues too, because it's a human issue. It just makes me think of the show The Circle, because a lot of times in that show, the guys come on the show and catfish as someone who they deem as more attractive, whether that's them coming on as an attractive woman or an attractive guy, because it's a popularity contest and a social popularity contest at that, and they feel like they'll have a
Christine,
better chance if people perceive them a certain way.
that's true. A lot of times that's true, you know. Many times people might not be insecure about themselves, you know, or they might not view themselves any type of way, but because of how society is, they think that maybe if they were slimmer, more brown, more dark, you know, whatever it might be, they feel like people might be receptive to them based on what the beauty standards are or what the majority of people say or think. And I think that's a very human thing, you know?
Because they themselves don't fit into the societal mold of what we deem to be attractive. But of course, these are my opinions, so I would like to know your opinions. How do you think the topic of fat phobia was handled in this episode? Was it good or was it bad? And although Carlos kept a positive attitude, how do you feel like La Cienaga's behavior towards him could have affected him? And why do you think they were being apprehensive on checking her for her behavior towards him? Let me know in the comments down below.
Yo, to answer all those questions, where do I even start? As I said before, I think he knows everything. He knows the backhanded comments. He knows what they're trying to say. But many fat people or people who get bullied in general, they develop this defense mechanism to build a very strong character, like being extremely funny, being extremely stoic, or just having great charisma as a way to just ignore what people say or just push it to the side or just not let it get to them. So I think that him having that type of character and personality, it's just that a way to, you know, overcome and ignore whatever they're saying. I don't think he was oblivious. And when it comes to La Cienega, it's in a friend group, right? I've been in many friend group where there's one person who just is like La Cienega, but nobody won't really check them or say anything because she's a part of the friend group, she's a part of the group. We've already accepted that this is who she is, or this is who the person is. So most of the time, whenever they talk, the place would just get silent, and we would already just, oh, that's her, that's who she is, and just brush it off. Because at the end of the day, it's a friend group. And plus, they're children, they're kids, they're young. They won't really check her like that. You get what I'm saying? But yo, this was a very great conversation, Yo, Alissa Jadyn, bro. She always have some good topics. Some good topics. Some extremely good topics, bruh.